Hey, welcome to the Pulse of Jonesboro. I'm Jeremy Terrell, and this is my podcast. We are here to talk a lot about Jonesboro, Craighead County, and Northeast Arkansas. It's time that we move our city forward or move our county forward and help the rest of Northeast Arkansas. And by doing so, let's start holding people accountable. And also, by holding people accountable, let's just be adults here and remember a time where it was okay to question, it was okay to ask people tough, hard questions and get people to move in the right direction for the people. That's what this podcast is all about, is helping people move forward through tough questions so that we can better Jonesboro, Craighead County, and Northeast Arkansas. It's almost our duty as Jonesboro. We are the largest city in Northeast Arkansas. We are the hub of Northeast Arkansas, and we bear a lot of responsibility from that. So on this podcast, we're going to touch on a lot of different things, and we're going to move in a direction that allows people to be interviewed. We're also going to talk a lot about ways we can help Jonesboro by really finding out who we are as a city. I think we're doing a lot of things that are great. I also think that we're doing a lot of things that aren't so great, and we're trying to become something that we're not. So by this podcast, we can also pretty much identify who we are as a city. Today's podcast is going to be one of the tougher podcasts, and that's because we're going to hit it hard. We're going to talk a lot about what I believe maybe is holding us back as a city, and also talk about what the solutions are. Now, I'm going to bring up some numbers. I'm going to talk about some things, and some people are going to get offended, and that's not what the purpose of this is. The purpose of this is to really talk about the truth of Jonesboro and move us in the right direction and give the information out to the people that they're just not getting through other resources, news resources, and things like that. So stay tuned to future podcasts. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. And we're going to be doing all kinds of social media. We have a website so we can get feedback from you guys on this and really make this a community podcast so that we can really reach those that are in charge by your voices and really give honest feedback so that we can move Jonesboro in the direction that we all want it to go. We'll do a lot of numbers and a lot of statistics and a lot of percentages. I'm real big on facts, and a lot of times facts come from the numbers. And so we'll look at a ton of numbers. Today we're going to start with talking about numbers. Numbers today that we're going to talk about are our schools and our crime rates. I believe that a lot of that is key to moving Jonesboro in the right direction. So buckle up over the next several months because we're really going to dive deep into Jonesboro and the real hard numbers. And we also have a few that are getting scheduled as far as interviews go. And this is a work in progress as well. We will get better and better at this, and videos will get better. We have some sponsors already, and we also have a way that you can support this program. I do believe that it is a must within Jonesboro that we have something like this so that your voice can be heard and we can take this to those that are in charge, whether it's our city or our schools, whether it's our hospitals, whether it's the local businesses, the restaurants, bankers, all that good stuff, and give them the real numbers that they really need in order to elevate Jonesboro and take us into the next place that we want to be. So let's talk a little bit about Jonesboro as a whole and talk about where we struggle currently right now and what we can do about it, and also talk about where we excel. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about crime rates, real true crime rates. I think that really moves the needle one way or another in Jonesboro. And we're also going to talk about our schools. And our schools are a predictor of Jonesboro's future. And so I believe that our schools are probably the most important aspect of moving Jonesboro in the right direction. So we're going to put the crime rates and the statistics of the city to the side just for a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about schools. We've got Jonesboro Public Schools, we got Valley View, we have Westside, Nettleton, and also Brooklyn. Those all are technically Jonesboro Public Schools. And some do a little bit better than others in certain aspects. They all have their strengths and they all have their weaknesses. I'm a firm believer that we have moved away from teaching and become more of a business and a money-making thing. Everybody can definitely feel free to disagree with that. I have some unbelievable friends that work in the districts, all of them actually. I have relatives that work in districts. And so just to clarify, I went to Jonesboro. I went to South School back in the day, went to Annie Camp, and then went to Jonesboro High School, and love my alma mater. I believe black and gold, but I believe that all of our schools are so important, and that we are truly in a place right now where we have to change the trajectory of where we're going, and that is so important. I was reading a statistic several months ago, and it talked about when companies are building jails or counties are building jails, and they bring in these groups to talk about how many rooms they need. And one of the ways they decide how many rooms is they take the literacy rate of the community. So, okay, first of all, let's talk about the state statistics. And currently the state statistics are, and these are averages with all the schools, math proficiency is 38%. And reading proficiency in the state is 40%. Now, Arkansas ranks one of the last in the United States. And there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of things that were done in the past that were bad, and we got a lot of bureaucrats that are involved. And again, it's really about making money and not about teaching kids. So hopefully with some of the new things that are going on, which I'm currently not real excited about, some of the changes I'm pretty excited about it. Some of the other changes within the state I'm not very happy with, but that'll be a different podcast because I believe, again, Jonesboro and Craighead being such a big part of Arkansas, that we also need to hold our state people accountable. And so we'll be doing that sometime in the near future on this podcast. So let's just go through the districts real quick. Jonesboro Public Schools, math is 29% proficient. Reading is 28%. Valley View is 52% math and 55% reading. West Side is 37%, and reading is 38%. Nettleton is 31% in math and 34% in reading. And Brooklyn is 38% in math and 43% in reading. So if you look at that, number one, Valley View gets an A, and the rest of the schools get somewhere between a B and an F. But what I find really weird, and this is why we are failing so miserably for our kids, is that Valley View is an A. And where in the world do you give an A when almost half of your students can't read on proficient? You know, a 52% is an A. And this is not a knock on Valley View by any stretch. I mean, they're doing better than the rest of everybody. And we know that they don't have the same challenges as some of the other districts, don't get me wrong, but they do have a lot of challenges, and we'll be experiencing more challenges as the years go on. But where in the world, when you have 1,400 students that don't read on proficient levels, that is an A? I mean, it's shocking to me that that's an A. So I did the numbers on all of the districts, and when you go to Jonesboro and they're 29% proficient, and people are like, well, that's not great, you know, it's kind of bad. But if you read it in this way, there's 6,779 students. And at 29%, that's 4,814 kids that do not read on grade level. And in math, it is 4,881 that aren't on math grade level. So that's an astronomical number. And, you know, there's 1,800 kids at West Side. Nearly 1,149 don't do math, and 1,131 are not on reading levels. Nettleton is bad as well. 31%, 3,200 kids don't read on reading level. Brooklyn, 38% out of their 2,573 kids, that's 1,595 don't do math, and 1,467 don't do reading on the grade level. So, this is a bad deal. If a prison was coming in and was looking to figure out how many beds we need, which I believe a tax is going to be coming for a jail. That's a whole nother podcast coming soon, but that's something like 1,500 beds. We currently have 300 and something, maybe more than that, because we're using closets and everything else as jail cells. So the state levels are math proficiency statewide is 38% and reading is 40%. Okay. So again, we give an A if you're 50%, but across the country, we're 47th or whatever in the entire country. So maybe we need to change our percentage of what is actually an A. And so Jonesboro, if you combine all the schools, so in math compared to 38%, Jonesboro is 34%. So we're below state average. And in reading, the state, again, is 40%, and we are 36%. Out of the 15,160 students, 10,006 do not do math on grade level. And out of the 15,160, 9,702 do not read on grade level. That's staggering numbers. And this is the future of Jonesboro. And why is that? And we want to push it on maybe the teachers, or we want to push it on maybe the principals. And the schools do bear some of this problem for sure. I know that a few of the schools' curriculums have changed every year. I know that some of that is due to the state constantly chasing test scores, moving numbers, and basically just being ridiculous when it comes to school. The thing is that the parents, in my opinion, okay, this is opinion. I'm going to give facts a lot, and then I'll give you my opinion. But the parents, in my opinion, are the problem. And that is because if you go to Jonesboro Public Schools, and the parental involvement is probably somewhere around 12%. And that may be doing it justice. And so our parents need to do a better job of finding out what's going on in the schools and why. And we need to make sure that they're doing their job as parents. And that means getting kids to school. After COVID, it's an absolute one of the largest problems that all of the schools, not just Jonesboro Public Schools, but all of them are dealing with, and that's getting kids to school. We're trying to figure out ways to do this whole situation with homework. We don't give it anymore. Some do, but a lot don't. And we're not teaching kids critical thinking. We're not teaching them discipline. There's a lot of things going on within the schools that aren't serving the kids, and a lot of it comes from the parents. Now, I've got a ton of different opinions, and I think that the way that the schools can change and do better for our kids, and we're going to hold them accountable too, and we're going to pressure them in order to move the needle within the districts. And one of those things is every school district should flood 1st through 4th grade with teaching every kid how to read. Quit all these government programs and all of these, hey, this newest, greatest thing is out to teach kids how to read. No, we should flood, and even start in kindergarten through 4th, we should flood those kids and teach them how to read. That's the most important years. And if we can do that and start today or next school year, that will make all the difference in the world. And as kids can read, then 5th through 12th grade will change dramatically. And it's not rocket science, and we try to make it rocket science. We've got more curriculums than we should. And, the problem, again, with all of that is it's money making. And so districts got to choose which one, and they go through, and they're constantly changing, and our teachers are constantly having to figure out the new curriculum. They can't get settled into something because it changes every year. The state changes it every year. The districts change it every year. And in all honesty, there's a few proven. And when I mean proven, I mean long time, 10, 20 years proven to work. And so why in the world as districts are we going out and trying new ones that are a hodgepodge of things that worked and things that didn't and trying to, make it stick to the wall? And at some point in time, if you're not using phonics as a district, you have completely missed the boat. So there's that in a nutshell. We'll be getting more into that and digging a little bit deeper. I believe that doesn't matter where you're from. The supporting staff should make it easy for teachers to teach. And that comes from consistency. That comes from environment, giving them the environment. That comes from kid discipline. The kid discipline in Jonesboro and throughout is lacking. I mean, that's a huge one. And it's not those that are doing the discipline, it's those that don't want to shine a bad light on the districts. And so they hide things and they ignore things. Some do it worse than others, but that's got to change. 100%. We got to give teachers the ability to teach. Now, I'm a firm believer that teachers teach kids how to learn, not what to learn. And that needs to be district-wide in every district. We don't need to be pushing any agendas or anything like that. We just need to be teaching kids how to learn and not what to learn, and giving them resources so that they can learn. And we need to give the environment for the kids and the environment for teachers to do just that. Our principals a lot of times are shackled by central offices. They don't have the ability to do what they want to do. And the responsibility comes down to a few people within an entire district. One is the school boards. So each and every one that are on a school board, they are key in this. And two are the superintendents. And we've got some good ones and we've got some okay ones. But the truth is that the majority of our school boards don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to hold superintendents accountable. The learning curve is dramatic. I mean, I've been on a school board and you spend your first term literally just learning what to do. That's wrong. The training for school boards in the state of Arkansas is pretty poor. I am a firm believer in going to the regionals and the national training. It's so much more informative on what in the world it is that we're supposed to be doing as school boards. Arkansas's really got to step that up. We actually, a few of us are putting together a program where we're going to hopefully go around the state and teach school boards how to do their job and take that learning curve and really lower it so that school boards can be more effective a whole lot faster, especially with new ones. I know that a lot of schools go through school board members pretty fast, and it's a tough job. They don't get paid. They got to spend a lot of time away from family and things like that. But if you're not willing to force that sacrifice, then don't get on the school board. So this isn't about who the coach is or your kid playing or any of that stuff. I mean, this is about the kids as a whole and doing a better job at making sure that we are doing what schools are supposed to do, and that's teach them how to read and add numbers. I mean, a lot of the other stuff is good for them. I'm a big sports guy. I think kids should play sports or be in a band or whatever, some sort of extracurricular. But aside from that, they should go to school and they should learn how to read and do math. And so parents got to do better. And then our superintendents, and this isn't just in Jonesboro, I mean, this is statewide. The problem is with our superintendents is when not held accountable, they do what they want to do. And I don't blame any of them. I mean, if nobody was holding me accountable, I would do it and run it the exact way that I believe that it should be ran. And some of our superintendents surround themselves with people that push them, and then the rest of them don't. You can't really blame them for that either, because if nobody's holding them accountable, why would you surround yourself with people that push you out of your comfort zones? Now, if you want to be real effective and you want to be a real leader, then that's what you do. You hire people, put them around you that push you and help you be better. But I don't know if that's a thing anymore. Definitely with schools, I'm not 100% sure that's what leaders want to do these days. I mean, if you look at like 14 things that a leader should do in today's time versus, when Covey did it in the 90s or even the 80s, I mean, they're not the same anymore. But the 80s and 90s are what took us to one of the prosperous countries in the world. and the most of the innovative country in the world, and we got away from what got us there. So that's kind of my take on schools. We're going to give an email out here in just a little bit, and you guys can email me and tell me what you guys think, and we can talk about that on the next podcast. I do want to talk about crime rates, and I ran for mayor, and one of the big things that was a topic was crime rates. And it's really tough to figure out what the crime rates are because there's not a whole lot of statistics out there. And then as Jonesboro goes, there's not a whole lot of statistics that are given as far as, break-ins and things like that because they're just not investigated. So we're not 100% sure on whether or not all of crime is actually being reported within our city because a lot of times when calls come in, depending on the severity of them, we don't even address them. It's kind of a policy thing. And there's a lot of reasons in that. And we will absolutely have an entire podcast about that as well. And all of the reasons why we don't count numbers or we don't do things as a police department or whatever. And that's not just JPD, but that's Craighead County. And there's a lot of restrictions on what we can do and how we can do it based upon jail's capacity and the ability for judges to do their job in a sense of handing down punishments that are measurable to the crime and so forth and so on. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about the numbers. Now, this comes from Neighborhood Scouts and crimegrades.org and a couple of other ones that we have found, and we have become a pretty good statistic finder. And we'll continue to improve on all of that so that we're giving out the best numbers that are going on with anything that we talk about here on the podcast. I will do my best to say this is my opinion, and when I don't say it's my opinion, and just give out numbers, those are because we have done a massive amount of research in order to find out the numbers. So here's what I've got on crime rates. Again, the majority of these numbers come from Neighborhood Scouts and crimegrade.org. So Jonesboro is the largest metropolitan area in Northeast Arkansas. The situation is that there's a big argument on whether or not crime's high or low. And there has been some times where over the last 4 years, it has dipped down in certain areas, and that was an improvement. And obviously any improvement is a great improvement, but overall crime was somewhat worse. And a lot of that is due to not violent crimes, but the rise in your lower crimes and theft of property and stuff. So here are the numbers. Jonesboro proper has a little over 80,000 people. The total crime rate is 40 per 1,000 residents. And that's among the highest in the United States. So that's in the top 15%. Violent crime is 6.46 per 1,000. And property crime is 34 per 1,000. Within Arkansas, Neighborhood Scouts notes that more than 92% of communities have a lower crime rate than Jonesboro. So 92% of Arkansas has a lower crime rate than Jonesboro. Now, Little Rock's worse, Pine Bluff is worse, and Hot Springs is just underneath us. Fort Smith is just a little bit better than us, and Rogers is better than us. So, here's the violent crimes in those cities. So in Little Rock, violent crimes is 8.5 per 1,000. And again, we're 6.46 per 1,000. Pine Bluff is 15 per 1,000. Fort Smith is 5.5 per 1,000. Hot Springs is 6 per 1,000. Jonesboro ranks somewhere around 4th or 5th highest in the entire state. So that's not good. If you talk about safety and people don't feel safer, is crime down? And I would say that the majority of the people do not feel safer in Jonesboro. And why is that? Well, there's a lot of different reasons for that. Actually, the majority of the problem is probably leadership. And let me give you some examples. If you're going out on a shift, so let's say first shift, JPD gets in their cars and they go out. Well, we've got some of the best police officers in the entire state. And some of them are my dear friends. And so my heart goes out to them. But here's what happens to them, okay? So they go out and they almost get to do what they want to do. So if you love writing tickets as a police officer, if you think that's the most important thing, you write tickets. If you think domestic violence is the most important thing, you go out and you find perpetrators or whatever it is that may be dealing with domestic crime. And so each individual goes out and they're currently looking for what they truly believe. But the problem is, if, let's say, the biggest thing is auto break-ins, what the leader should do is prioritize those things. So if break-ins are the greatest threat, then each individual that's going out should be priority one. And then if they got time, then they can trickle off and do some of that other stuff that they really have a desire for. But that's not being done. And so we're not lowering different crime rates. We're just going out and hodgepodging and trying to bring down crime based upon what each individual police officer feels is best in their wheelhouse. And that's just leadership. Now, our police department does a good job a lot of times in whatever it is that they're doing, but the leadership does need to narrow those things down and understand the real crime problem in Jonesboro. They need to know what in the world is number one, number two, number three, number four, and systematically go through and make sure that number one, number two, number three, number four is getting dealt with. Third shift number one crime probably differs from first shift number one crime. And third shift should know what that is based upon the statistics and things, the data that is being tabulated in order to make Jonesboro safer. And then to talk about things that aren't really true, and that's crime's going down or crime's better or whatever. We need to be real about what's going on. And so there is a correlation, believe it or not, also between our schools and crime rate. And so if our schools are not doing better and they're actually doing worse and going in the wrong direction and crime's getting higher, I think that we're all smart enough to understand that there's a correlation there. And so the city and the schools should be working together on that. And that doesn't happen either, because the schools are like, hey, we don't want any bad publicity. And so they push back on the police department a lot of times and don't let the police department do their jobs. I mean, SROs sometimes are shackled by what they can do within the school districts. And I've had a couple incidences myself where nothing really got done, because if it would have happened, then it would have been a really bad light on the school districts. So the biggest thing is that as a district, as a police department, we've got to have leaders that are willing to put forth the effort and work and make sure that, number one, that those that are best equipped are in the positions to be the most effective. And two, that the leadership is actually driving the process based upon the numbers in order to bring down crime. I know Marty Boyd, I know that he's a good police officer, a good man, and I truly believe that he should not be out, talking to people about a prison. Now, I know why he's doing it, because it means a lot to him, and he understands the significance of not having enough room to punish those that are doing crimes. But that's up to the county and the county judge and so forth. That they need to be out doing their job as far as promoting whether or not we need a new jail, and they need to do a better job of giving the right statistics and things like that. Marty needs to be in charge of making sure that we're all safe. And I know that that's probably what he wants to do, and I'm definitely not trying to put words in his mouth. I think that he's doing all of it. Chief Elliott, great soul, really cares about our community. But again, is he the guy that needs to be out as the face of Jonesboro and pushing ideas and things like that? I'm not 100% sure. I believe that him and his counterpart, Lynn, should be driving the process of what I've just been saying and making sure that our police officers want to be police officers in Jonesboro, making sure that each and every one of them are respected and that they're trained and everything is done at the highest of levels, and that the right people are in the right positions and really driving the process instead of being in the political world. So that's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. And again, just because I'm coming down on certain things doesn't mean that I think anybody's bad. And again, I really want those that are listening to this podcast to understand that if I think you're a bad person, I'll probably say it. But for the most part, the people in these positions are unbelievable. Marty and Chief Elliott are two class act people. They truly are amazing. And I think they get put in positions based upon their love for our communities that maybe they shouldn't be. And I'm nobody to say that, but it's just my beliefs. I think that they should really be focused on JPD and our county patrolmen and let the leaders do the rest of that stuff. So I think the elected leaders should probably step up. I know they should. They should do a better job of driving this process. Now, I bring these things up. We talked a little bit about it at the very beginning, but I bring these things up because we got to move the needle in the right direction. Our schools and our kids are our future, and they mean everything to the direction in which Jonesboro's going. And, I think that our schools need to reach out to our businesses and make sure that we are passing on kids that are ready for the workforce. I mean, the graduation rates are, I think Jonesboro's is 88% or 82% or something right around there. And then, Valley View's is maybe 95%. And then everybody else kind of falls in somewhere in between. But the problem with that is if you have over half, and every school does have over half that are not proficient in math and not proficient in reading, then what are we graduating? I mean, are we graduating people that can't read? I know for a fact I've employed some of these graduates myself who are unbelievable kids, young men and young women, and they can't read. And I mean an 18-year-old that reads on a fifth grade reading level. So it's not good. And we got to do better. This is our future. I can tell you this. Every community within the nation that has completely lost schools, that schools have become 100% inner city schools, don't recover. And when they don't recover, what does that mean for the city? The city falls right into that same category. And then it becomes a failed city. So failed schools equal failed cities. It's just a 100% fact. It has been that way since the existence of the United States. And I have yet to find, and maybe some of you guys can, but I've yet to find one school district that has failed, completely failed, in the public eye, that's ever recovered. They get a little bit better and a little bit worse, a little bit better and a little bit worse. And then if you look at the cities, they follow. It's just facts. Those are facts. And so if we don't believe that our schools are the number one issue that we have to address in Jonesboro, we're fooling ourselves. I want to touch base real quick on inner city. I was having a conversation about that with a few people, including my wife, and define inner city because I mentioned it. So inner city is nothing other than pure economics. And when you have a huge influx of people that aren't making money compared to those making money, it becomes an inner city. Jonesboro is, I'll tell you here because I have the numbers. So Jonesboro district is 85% in the poverty level. Brooklyn is 35%. Nettleton is 70%. Westside is 47%. Valley View is 26%. And Jonesboro is 85%. And the state average is 60%. So if you look at this and you take into consideration all of that, we cannot become a 100% inner city school, which means 100% of our students are in the poverty level. And so we have to boost that number. We have to, this is something that people don't want to talk about because it's a sensitive issue, but it's just the truth. We have to move the needle in these areas. We 100% have to move the needle. So when our mayor says, hey, let's move to 100,000 people, we have to be really careful about what that is and what that looks like for Jonesboro. So do we want to become 100,000 people? I would say that the majority of Jonesboro doesn't want to. But, if we're the hub, let's just make sure that we are attracting the right type of people. And that doesn't mean black or white, doesn't mean Hispanics or Asians. I mean, ASU is a great representation of diversity. They have unbelievable amount of different people from all over the world, actually. And Jonesboro needs to continue to do that, but we also need to make sure that we're not bringing people from failed cities, although some of them coming from these failed cities want to get away from those failed cities, but we don't want to attract when you are a city that is failing And that means crime is way up and poverty's way up and you're a thief and a drug dealer. I mean, where do you go? You go to the next city that's thriving and you start pushing that until that becomes a failed city. And those are things that we need to understand and we need to be diligent about and not becoming that city. And that comes from the leadership. And that comes from those that are in the positions to make sure that that is not what we become. And parents, you are the number one way that that stops. And so we got to do a better job. And parents, you need to get involved. 100% need to get involved, because without parental involvement, the schools do whatever they want to do. And without pressure from parents and without holding your kids accountable, which is obviously a huge part of this problem, we're not moving the needle. So it's time to move the needle, parents. It's time to do better for our schools. And then crime rates. Crime rates, 100% drive whether or not we have people moving into our town. And those that are moving in, I mean, I heard the mayor say that he wants to become 100,000 people, and that's great. There's probably things that come with that, a lot of different benefits. But the problem is that if our crime rate is the fourth largest or fourth worst in the entire state, then who are we catering to? Who's going to move in? So we need to ask that true question. I mean, that's a hard question to swallow, but that's a question that the citizens of Jonesboro should be making sure that before we grow to 100,000, we need to be making sure that we're not encouraging criminals to come to Jonesboro, that we're actually encouraging people that contribute to our society. And the future podcast is, what is that society? So kind of a lead into something that's coming. We need to find our identity. It's pretty funny that right now pushing a direction is really catering to a very small few of Jonesboro's population. And so we really need to make sure that we know who we are as a city and the people that we are. And we need to make sure that's the direction that we're moving. I mean, my entire life here, we've been a majority blue collar workers, hardworking people that are out there making things for the rest of the United States. And we're building a great town based upon hardworking people. And I hear talks all the time, especially when I was running for mayor, of Fayetteville this and Fayetteville that and Springdale this and Bentonville that. And the problem is we'll never be those people. I mean, that town. We'll never be that town. We don't have the money. And that's a different industry up there. I mean, a lot of it's more, upper blue collar to white collar jobs, and they've got Walmart, Tyson, Hunt's. They got a lot of different companies that are funneling billions and billions and billions of dollars into their communities. Here we are a manufacturing place, which is a great, and we have some great businesses and doctors and things like that. We do have some high paying jobs. And one of the things that I'll be getting to into the future is, man, we got some great businesses here, and we've got some national headquarters here, quite a few, believe it or not. It's pretty impressive as far as what we got going on in Jonesboro. But we got to know what our identity is. We can't be trying to force an identity. All that does is aggravate the majority of the people, and you end up, servicing a very, very few of our population and spend millions and millions and millions of dollars trying to do that and ignore the rest of the population. And when you do that, you develop a culture that's not healthy. And so we need to create a healthy culture. We need to know the direction in which we're going as a city, and we need to do better for our people. And that'll be another podcast come. Guys, I really appreciate you tuning in to the podcast. There'll be a whole lot more to come. And like I said, we're going to get better. The video quality will get better. Audio, I hope, is actually pretty good. We've been really working on the audio. And we're going to have a lot of avenues in order for us to communicate to one another. This podcast is for you guys. This is about giving you guys a voice. And so we'll have links to ways that you can communicate with us. And we'll have links to ways that you can contribute and to make sure that we're moving Jonesboro in the right direction. If you love what you're hearing, please tune in, please share, please get online and let us know what you think. And we'll make adjustments based upon what we believe is really going to move the needle. This is a bridge. We're going to point fingers, but we're going to try to do it in a constructive way. But we really want to build bridges. We really want to make sure that we're bringing different groups in order to make sure that we're moving Jonesboro in the right direction. Listen, we are a melting pot of people, and great people on both sides of the political aisle, from every walk of life. And Jonesboro has a great, unbelievable amount of culture and things that go on within our community. A lot of great people that grew up here and a lot of great people that have moved in here. And so we want to build bridges, not tear them down, but we also want to bring reality and talk about it and talk about truth. And when you speak truth, power comes with that, and we will move the needle in the right direction as far as Jonesboro goes. I love Jonesboro. I am a Jonesboro person. I've raised my family here. My parents are from here, grandparents, and I want to see Jonesboro going in the right direction. I've had lots of friends move out in the last several years. A lot of that's due to kids not coming back and things like that, and that's normal to some aspect. But then there's some, a lot of people just don't get up and move just because their kids don't come back either. So my wife and I are determined to make sure that in years to come that this is the place that we gather together, regardless where our kids are in the United States. This is where we'll do Christmas and Thanksgivings and birthdays. We'll always have a place here in Jonesboro so that this will be the family hub. And I know that a lot of other people believe that and feel that way. And so that's really what this podcast is about, is giving us the ability to move it in the right direction, make sure Jonesboro is prosperous years from now, and that we're moving it by speaking truth and not sugarcoating things, and just being honest with one another, and learn how to work with each other, whether we have disagreements or not. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.